Hi, students and teachers. I hope you are having a great day, and I hope you are ready to talk a little bit about this word, hope. I'm not a great artist, but I copied this off of a coloring sheet that is available for you today. One of those fancy kinds where you get to make it really pretty. So I hope you are able to maybe take advantage of that I sent to your teachers for today. Today's lesson is going to take us through the story of Joseph in the Bible and how he maintained hope in the midst of some very hopeless situations. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about this word hope. And I actually want to start with your thoughts on it. How would you define hope? What does it mean? What does it look like? I'd love for you to come up with some examples of times when you have had hope. It could be something simple like, I hope my sports team wins, or I hope this math test is easy. Or it could be something more like, I hope we get a vaccine for COVID-19 really soon. Whatever examples you can think of, go for it. Or maybe you want to think of the opposite. What does it mean to be hopeless? Can you think of times in your life or someone else's life that seemed hopeless? So let's pause the video and have you discuss hope or hopelessness together as a class. So I admit, for me right now, it's almost easier to think of examples of hopelessness. I see so many things going on in the world that seem hopeless. We've been dealing with COVID for so long now and having to put so many special things on hold just to stay safe. It seems hopeless that life will ever return to normal. I see people arguing and fighting about politics, especially since we have a presidential election coming up soon. Sometimes it seems hopeless that America will be anything besides divided and bitter. I see pain, suffering, and injustice around the world, victims of racial brutality or hate crimes, victims of destructive storms or wildfires, people starving, people without a place to live. All these kinds of things weigh heavily on my heart and make me feel sometimes like everything is just hopeless. But throughout the Bible, we're reminded that our hope comes from God. The author of Psalm 62 says it this way, "My hope comes from God. Truly he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. Trust in him at all times. Pour out your hearts to him." Even when it doesn't seem like there's hope, in difficult circumstances that we might be facing, we can find our hope in God. And that's what we're going to see happening in the story of Joseph. As I'm sure you remember, in previous lessons we've talked about Abraham and his son Isaac. So when Isaac grows up, he becomes the father of Jacob and Esau. You may know some Bible stories about those two brothers. But when Jacob's grown up, Isaac's son Jacob becomes the father of 12 sons, one of whom is Joseph. So that's how we get to where we were in the Bible to where we find ourselves today. Some of you have already just now watched an animated video all about Joseph's story, and others of you may already be familiar with some of the details. Perhaps you learned the story from a musical called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Any musical theater fans among you may know about that one and know that it was made by the same people who made The Phantom of the Opera or Jesus Christ Superstar, which are two of my favorites. A little bit of trivia, Evangelical actually performed Joseph one year with its 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. I think that was a year or so before I got here, so maybe 17 or 18 years ago. I'm going to show you a scene from the musical. This is from a film version that they made several years ago. The narrator is telling the story of Joseph to a group of school kids. So you'll see the kids in the video, you'll see the Joseph characters, and you'll see the narrator. Now, all parents, like me, know that you're not supposed to play favorites with your children. I have 2 kids of my own. I love them equally. However, in this story, you're going to see that Jacob seems to really favor Joseph over all his other children. And we're going to see in this clip how that made his brothers feel very jealous of him, especially when Jacob gives Joseph a very special coat. So that's what we're going to see in this scene.
Joseph's mother, she was quite my favorite wife. I never really loved another all my life. And Joseph was my joy because he reminded me of her.
Through young Joseph, Jacob lived his youth again, loved him, praised him, gave him all he could, but then it made the rest feel second best. And even if they were
being told we're also friends does not make us Joseph fans.
But where they have really missed the boat is
We're great guys, but no one seems to notice.
Joseph's charm and winning smiles failed to slay them in the aisles, and their father couldn't see the danger. He could not imagine any danger. He just saw in Joseph all his dreams come true. Jacob wanted to show the world he loved his son, to make it clear that Joseph was the special one. So Jacob bought his son a coat, a multicolored coat to wear.
Joseph's coat was elegant, the cut was fine.
The tasteful style was the ultimate in good design.
And this is why it caught the eye.
A king would stop and stare.
And when Joseph tried it on, he knew his sheepskin days were gone. Such a dazzling coat of many colors. How he loved his coat of many colors. In a class above the rest, it even went well with his vest. Such a stunning coat of many colors. How he loved his coat of many colors. It was red and yellow and green and brown and blue. Joseph's brothers weren't too pleased with what they saw.
We have never liked him all that much before, and now this coat has got our ghost. We feel like he's unfair.
And when Joseph graced the scene, his brothers turned a shade of green. His astounding clothing took the biscuit.
Quite the smoothest person in the district.
I look handsome, I look smart, I am a walking work of art. Such a dazzling coat of many colors, how I love my coat of many colors.
It was red and yellow and green and brown and scarlet and black and ochre and peach and ruby and olive and violet and
I look handsome, I look smart, I am a walking work of art. Such a dazzling coat of many colors, how I love my coat of many colors. It was red and yellow and green and brown and scarlet and black and ochre and peach and ruby and olive and violet and fawn and lilac and gold and chocolate and mauve, cream and crimson and silver and rose and azure and lemon and russet and gray and purple and white and pink and orange and blue.
All right. So, I have my own coat of many colors here to display. So whenever I had this on for the Noah lesson, a few people saw it ahead of time and said, oh, is this going to be a Joseph lesson? So I figured I would honor them and pull that back out. Even though everyone is dancing and singing and things seem to be super hopeful in this video clip, shortly thereafter, his brothers put a plan into place that will really change things for Joseph. They ripped his coat off of him, they threw him into a pit, and then they sold him to a group of slave traders who took him away. The brothers lied to their father, made him think that Joseph had been attacked by wild animals and killed. With October being National Bullying Prevention Month, I think we should point out that Joseph's brothers are clearly bullying him. They're going even further than bullying, but it's certainly a part of it. A few things we can notice here about bullying. It might stem from jealousy, as it does in this case. A bully might think that you're noticed or liked more than they are. They might be jealous of the things you have. These were both happening here with Joseph and his brothers. Another thing we can notice from this is that bullying can happen within your family. It's not always going to be classmates. It might be brothers or sisters. It might be cousins. It may even be adults in your family. Your parents or your aunts and uncles or step-parents or your mom's boyfriend or anybody that's in your house that's in a part of your family. If there's ever a time that you feel like a family member is bullying you, find an adult that you trust and let them know. That might be your parent or your teacher, anyone who is not doing the bullying or allowing the bullying to happen. Somebody you know will trust you that you're telling them the truth. Now, it seems like in Joseph's case, there wasn't time to tell anyone about the bullying that his brothers was doing, because by the time he realized what was going on, the brothers' plan to get rid of him was already in motion. The slave traders took Joseph to Egypt and sold him to a man named Potiphar, and he worked for the Pharaoh. Despite being betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, Joseph did not lose hope. He knew that God was with him and that he should still trust that things were going to get better. And they did. Joseph worked hard and found favor with his captor, who eventually put Joseph in charge. He was basically Potiphar's second in command. And that was great until something else happened. Joseph was accused of doing something that he didn't do, and this made Potiphar so mad at Joseph, even though he was innocent. Potiphar threw Joseph into jail. And once again, things were looking really hopeless for Joseph. And yet, Joseph continued to trust in God and not lose hope that God would work through him to make his situation better. Joseph once again was respectful and honorable and kind and found favor with this captor as well. The head jailer eventually put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. While in prison, two men that had worked for the Pharaoh had dreams that Joseph interpreted. He told them what the strange things in their dreams really meant. This was a gift that Joseph had, apparently. And later, when one of those men was back working for the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh himself had a weird dream, this guy remembered how well Joseph could interpret dreams. So they called him in from the prison, had him explain what the Pharaoh's dream meant. And it was really important dreams. They were glimpses into the future. They were visions of how soon there would be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of nothing. They would have lots of food, great crops, plenty for everyone, but after that there would be famine in the land. The crops would dry up, there would be nothing left for anyone. So by knowing this, they were able to store up food during those good years so that they had enough during the bad years. Joseph's interpretation of the dream saved many lives by giving everyone a chance to be prepared. And it was actually Joseph who did a lot of the work because the Pharaoh put him in charge, like Potiphar and the jailer had done before. By trusting in God and making good choices, Joseph had once again been elevated to a place of importance and responsibility. So when the famine hit, it hit everywhere and it hit hard. Other countries were even coming to Egypt to buy emergency supplies. And Jacob's family was getting ready to do that as well. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy food so that the family wouldn't starve to death. And since Joseph was in charge of the operations, the brothers had to come to him. But you see, so much time had passed since they had betrayed Joseph, the brothers didn't recognize him. But he recognized them. And he had a big decision to make. Would he help his brothers out even after all the terrible things they had done to him? Would he be able to forgive them for all of that? Or did they deserve payback for what they had done to him? Was Joseph finally going to be able to get revenge? So we're going to take another break to discuss this. How would you have handled this situation if you were Joseph? Would you forgive them and help your brothers out? Or would you make sure that you got revenge for all the bad things they had done to you? We're going to pause the video and see what you have to say about it. Think about how Joseph might have felt. And regardless of how you answer the question, make sure to tell everyone why you think you or Joseph would respond this way. So we're going to pause and talk about that. Now, as you may or may not know yet, Joseph's answer was a little more complicated than did he or did he not forgive them. Joseph made them work for it a little bit first. Joseph tested them, I guess you could say. He wanted to see if they had changed, see if they deserved a second chance. So after making his brothers do what he asked of them, Joseph finally revealed himself to them as the brother that they had betrayed so many years before. And then, here's the kicker, he said to them, "Don't worry. What you intended as harm, God has used for good." Joseph saw that even though the brothers had done wrong, God took Joseph's circumstances and he worked something good out in the long run, which is, through Joseph, that all of Egypt and many of the surrounding areas were able to survive this terrible famine. That was the good that God had worked. There were hugs and tears all around as Joseph and his brothers were reunited, and eventually they sent for Jacob, Joseph's father, and Joseph and his father were also reunited at last. Joseph was right to forgive his brothers, but hopefully you're able to see through this story that forgiveness is hard. It's not usually our natural reaction to forgive someone when they've hurt us. And when that hurt is big, so is the pain, the anger, the desire to get revenge. If you hurt me, I should have the right to hurt you back. You've certainly earned it. You should get what you deserve. But aren't you glad that God doesn't give us what we deserve? Remember last week when we said the wages of sin is death? What if we got what we deserved for the wrong things that we've done? I think Joseph was able to forgive his brothers because he knew it was God's way. God forgives us. He forgives us even though we don't deserve it. Through Jesus, he provided forgiveness for our sins once and for all. And guess what? One of Joseph's brothers was actually an ancestor of Jesus. In the Gospels, when they trace Jesus' family, they show this. So it's a good thing that Joseph forgave his brothers and helped them get the food they need so they wouldn't starve and die, or else history might have looked a little different. So to come back to the place where we started this lesson, the forgiveness we receive through Jesus gives us hope. We have hope that no matter what happens, God will be with us through it all, to love us, to comfort us, and to guide us. I'll see everybody next time.